Hey.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Alpha's live session, where we bring you access to connect with leaders across the country who are making a positive impact in our communities. And today's topic is how to navigate your future career path. Today's session is sponsored by TIAA, and we're very excited to have you here today. Thank you all for attending. Now, today's discussion will provide key insights to assist listeners to adjust and learn how TIAA leaders on the pros and how to navigate your future career path. Now, my name is Adriana Acosta. I'm a marketer at SumUp and Alpha's El Paso Director of Marketing Chapter Leader, and I will be serving as your moderator. Now, let's get started and jump into the discussion. I would like to first introduce our panel for today. We have Alex Rodriguez. He is a Senior Director, Financial Planning and Analysis Management. We also have Ellie Martins. She is the Managing Director of Internal Audit Services. With us today is also Hayden Lee. He is Managing Director, Head of Corporate Functions Risk. And we have Marielle Avina. She's Managing Director, Head of Advisory Council Strategic Client Engagement. Welcome all to today's discussion.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Good to be here.
It's a pleasure.
Now let's get started. Who wants to start off? We would like to know and learn from you all what drew you to your career and ultimately to work at TIAA.
So I'll jump in there. And first and foremost, I'd like to say Feliz Cinco de Mayo. For those of you that don't speak Spanish, that is happy Cinco de Mayo, and I think that translates into all different languages. But my name is Marielle Avina. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Adriana, and a pleasure to chat with all of you today. So I've been in the financial services industry my entire career and worked for many large and wonderful firms. And over the course of my career, I had opportunity to run into individuals from TIAA, and there was always a secret sauce there. And where it really started resonating with me, it's this dedication of wanting to have and provide lifetime income for all. And coming from a Hispanic family, a family where I'm the first college graduate, the notion of retiring and having a secure retirement and having a lifetime check was something that was new in my family. And to work for an organization that is committed and dedicated to that was something that really, really just inspired me, and it's now my passion. It is what we're dedicated to, and you see retire inequality behind all of us, and we're going to talk more about that in a bit. But that's my answer, Adriana. It's the dedication to lifetime income for all.
And I think that's where we can all relate when we have to be conscious about that lifetime choice that we have to make. Thank you, Marielle. Who wants to follow? Alex, I feel
Sure.
Like you're ready to share with us.
So I've been at TI for 11 years, and I think the values of the organization most definitely align with the values that I live my life by, make my decisions by. So that's great, but that's not what initially brought me here. And I think this is interesting from a career progression standpoint. I worked in New York. actually thought I was going to be a lawyer for my whole life, education, undergrad, criminal justice. I'm going to go to law school. Fortunately, I paused and said, hey, let me work in a law firm for a little while before I commit to law school. And after 4 months, I was like, not for me. Went back. I said, I'm going to go to grad school and I'm going to figure this out. Ultimately found that accounting, finance resonated well with me. But I actually worked in marketing and advertising company. So I worked at Interpublic Group of companies for several years in corporate accounting and finance, but in marketing advertising. My wife and I chose to relocate to Charlotte being a tremendous financial hub. I said, well, not as big a marketing advertising hub. I'm going to have to pivot in my career. And is this something I want? And it's something we considered. I've always had interest in financial services. And fortunately for me, an opportunity came up at TIAA to become the business finance officer supporting the marketing organization. So I used that experience to kind of pivot over and join TIAA. And lo and behold, as I've matured in my career, I've grown to really appreciate the values that TIAA is here to serve, not just our participants, the values for employees, the alignment to those values, and kind of, it's a great place to work. So I'll just say that definitely a different journey, but very happy to be at an organization like this.
Thank you, Alex, for sharing. We can't wait to learn more about how you made those decisions. Extreme changes, I would say. Hayden, would you like to jump in?
Exactly what Alex said. I mean, I wanted to be a lawyer, and no, I did actually want to be a lawyer, but I didn't go as far as going 4 months. He cannonballed a little further in than I did. I just said, no, I don't want the debt. So, but I started in public accounting, kind of auditing not-for-profits and tech companies up in DC. And so I was always really drawn to the not-for-profit mission of some of those companies. And that's the reason why I'm here. I've been here for 16 years. My role, we actually oversee a lot of the risk programs for lines of business here. And TIAA really is a special company that I know that's what Alex was saying, that really cares about the participants and is constantly evolving to ensure that the experience and retirement outcomes are the greatest for their participants. So, I mean, you can't really argue with that. Like that's just being good. and I like to be around good things. So, and as a participant, we all are involved and we all have a, solid future as well in that respect. So that just, it's something that actually curbs the fact that I got my first Wordle wrong this morning. Right. So, I mean, it's a great company. I love being here.
Thank you, Hayden. Ellie.
Of course you did, Hayden. So so you'll hear a theme, kind of going last, right? We're all here because of the mission of our company, of TIAA, and because it truly aligns. Not only we align with the values of the company, but really the company aligns with our values. In regards to my career, I always, I call it was fate, luck, or coincidence. But after finishing college in Puerto Rico, I chose a job in internal audit with the federal government. And I didn't apply for this job. I actually, was recommended by my accounting professor. And when they called me and I interviewed for the job and I learned what I was going to do, which actually was tied to the Department of Education. I come from a family of teachers. I said, this sounds really good. So I started my career in internal audit, and I've been in internal audit ever since, based on what I like from our profession. So when I moved to Charlotte 18 years ago, started to try to build relationships in Charlotte, volunteering for industry associations, I met a lot of associates from our internal audit department. So when it came the opportunity to make a career change, I knew this was the company I wanted to come, not only because of the people, but the mission. So here in internal audit, I support internal audit services for our retirement business. So it's, really aligns with what I like to do.
Awesome. That's great. I really can't wait to hear more about making career changes. And speaking about being drawn to work at TIAA, let's go ahead and check out this special video.
Hello, I'm Tashonda Brown Duckett, and I'm thrilled to be celebrating my 1-year anniversary as president and CEO of TIAA, a company driven by a singular and unwavering purpose to deliver lifetime income in retirement. Today, a staggering 40% of U.S. households are projected to run out of money in retirement. We need to do better, and TIAA is leading the way. We won't stop until everyone can say, I am on track to retire well with security and dignity. This is a critical need and an ambitious goal, and it requires amazing talent in every part of our business, especially IT, where we're looking for the best and brightest engineers and data scientists to join our team. We need innovators, problem solvers, difference makers, those who are bold and won't accept the status quo, who have fortitude and grit, who don't just talk about change, but who make change happen. If that's what fuels you, then I invite you to learn more about TIAA. Our commitment to our clients and to integrity, diversity, and inclusion goes back more than a century and is stronger today than ever before. Join us and let's be the change together.
Awesome. There we go. So whether listeners are in their early or mid-career, we really want to learn and hear from you, from your experience of how to prepare the path, how to make that difficult decision of having to pivot and make that career change. One of the questions that I have here is, what are the questions that we should ask ourselves when thinking about or considering making our career change? Alex, I don't know.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Alex. Jump in.
No, sure, I'll jump in. Yeah, so before you can ask yourself, I think, any questions, for me, there are two things that are probably foundational for you. One is, if you're interested in making a career change, you really need to be thinking 5 or more years out, about what your career looks like. I think by having that longer term goal, you begin to better understand and assess what's needed to get there. And I imagine for most, that longer term goal or aspiration is going to require some knowledge or skill set development from where you are today. So being able to reflect on where you are today, the development needed to get to that aspirational goal, is going to help you figure out what opportunities you're going to need to undertake in order to develop those. The other thing I'd mention before you ask yourself a question is to really reflect. I think it's foundational to really understand who you are and what makes you tick. And I will tell you, I think it will change and evolve and mature over time. Your experiences are going to help shape that. But at whatever point you're at, take that reflection, self-reflection, think about what are your strengths and weaknesses, but also your interests, pet peeves, your values. I think you may overlook values. Values are a game changer with regard, I think, to the satisfaction you're going to get from your career. So really hone in on those values. If an organization and the people you work with are not aligned, not respectful of those, I think you need to really consider that change. But so values are very important. So take that longer term vision, reflect a bit on yourself. And I think from there, you can start to ask yourself some of the questions. Just what are my strengths and how do I think they'll contribute successfully to a particular role? What is the day-to-day work a role requires? And do I feel that I'm going to be satisfied or derive value or feel fulfilled for that? Because sometimes some aspects of a job can be pretty, wow, that sounds good. But if my day-to-day, 90% of my job is doing something else that I don't enjoy, is it really worth it to me? What type of interactions do I want to have with people, right? I might like interacting with people. Doesn't mean I'm going to be a good salesman. I could be customer service. Don't be broad. Get a little specific with regards to the questions you're asking yourself. Do you want to manage people? Are you more of a self-contributor, individual contributor? And especially today, in the environment we live in, Am I a 5-day-a-week office person? Am I a 5-day-a-week remote person? Am I something in between? And what does that impact, or how does that impact my career progression? Relationships are still built somewhat in person. So while I might want to work remotely more, does that potentially mean that career trajectory is going to be a little bit longer? Am I limiting something there? What is a hybrid environment going to provide me instead? Or on office, I just need that engagement. Some people are passionate, need it. So anyway, I'll shut up there a little bit, but those are some of the thoughts, I think, foundationally, what you might need to think about heading into asking yourself some of those questions.
I definitely think you mentioned the key word, which is evolve. Sometimes we're not paying attention at how we're changing or evolving professionally and personally. So paying attention and identifying what it is that we enjoy doing is very important and crucial in the long run.
Yes.
Mariel, if you would like to let us know what you were going to say right now.
Absolutely. That's exactly right, Alex and Adriana. I would just sum it up by saying, know who you are. But more importantly, and I think, Alex, you alluded to it, know who you are not. I have been in situations in companies that I did not fit in. I could not bring my best self to work because I couldn't be my best self. I was a poor replication of something that I was not. And 5 years of my life, I paid a very heavy price. And it's almost, I call it selling your soul to the devil. When you can't be who you are, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy at home. You're not going to be happy at work. So I just sum it up. Know who you are, but even more importantly, be crystal clear on who you are not. Be true to who you are, because only then can you bring your best self to work. Only then will you find true joy in that evolution, Adriana, that you mentioned, of your skill set, because you know that you're doing something that you're good at, that you're enjoying, that you're finding and the word is joy. If you cannot derive joy from those 8, 10, 15 hours a day that you spend at work, you will be a miserable human being. And you only have one life, so you might as well enjoy it.
Right now, you mentioned you paid a high price. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I feel like myself and the listeners can relate to this. When do you know you're paying that high price and you need to make that career change?
Okay, so first of all, health. When your health begins to deteriorate because the stress level is so high, you've got to take what your body is wise. Your mind is wiser and your soul is the wisest. But when your body begins to lash out at you, your blood pressure is high, you're either gaining or losing weight, you're not sleeping well, pay attention to your body and then listen to your mind, but certainly listen to your soul. The price that I paid was miserable. I was miserable for 5 years. I was not healthy for 5 years. And my career took a toll because I didn't develop or evolve in my career as I had wanted to, because I was not in the right place. So it's not worth it. There are a lot of things out there that you can do, but find what you find joy in, and then go full throttle ahead. Then once you figure that out, then just go with reckless abandon, because the sky's the limit.
Thank you for sharing, Mariel. I remember myself in a previous job where I wasn't too happy and also got sick, and I had to pay attention to my body and say, what's going on? Something is not aligning with me. Something's not right. Something's not correct. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Now, if you could tell us, how did you leverage your past experience to make a shift? Ellie, I don't know if you would like to share your point of view.
Definitely. So I actually didn't have any financial services experience at the time I came to TIAA. It was very, very new to me, but I had been in internal audit for a long time. So I would say that really to make the shift, I leveraged, my team, my peers, and those around me to learn, right, the processes, to learn the industry. I knew what my strengths were in regards to the audit process, the project management, what we do in internal audit. But I think it's okay to admit you don't know everything when you make a shift, when you start a new role. And I think sometimes we stop ourselves from pursuing opportunities because we feel like we don't know anything, or we don't know everything that we have to execute in that role. But I've really, again, leveraged relationships, learned with, those around me, and leverage their experience, their expertise to really bring me along through the journey.
Thank you, Ellie. Hayden, would you like to tell us and let us know?
Sure. I mean, I think any change or transitioning to a new role or anything like that, it's all the fear of the unknown, right? And so, especially if you're enjoying your current role, right? So there are two scenarios. You can either be enjoying your current role or probably looking for something new. I've had both when I've in the tenure that I've been here. One where I felt like I was probably getting a little stale in my role before, and that becomes a little easier to leave. But I think making sure that you take the close counsel of, what Mario was saying, as far as listening to your body. Your gut knows a lot. Trust your gut, and make sure that, you have confidence in your abilities, that you can build the relationships and you can change. The second time it happened, I was really happy in my role. I was comfortable in my role, and somebody just said, "Hey, would you like this new role that had an expanded coverage and team responsibilities?" And you kind of take a step back. Those end up being actually a little bit tougher, because it's kind of that scenario like when you're at a car lot, right? And you don't need a new car, right? But you're buying a new car, you're looking at a new car. Like, that's an easier scenario than my car broke down and I need a new car right now. So, I think in both scenarios, you just leverage your previous experience. Have confidence, again, in your abilities to make sure that you can succeed and build those relationships. And also, I mean, luckily in my role, I have the best team at the company. And so, that's allowed us all to succeed. And so, leveraging.
No, you don't. I have the best team in the company.
I'll scissor, paper, rock you for it.
Come on, Hayden. Come
2
on.
out of 3. But I mean, leveraging your team as much as you can, and not putting as much on yourself that you have to do it, that'll help everybody be successful.
Certainly. One of the comments that we have here from Annette, thank you for joining us. She says, great advice to think ahead and review values. And she also agrees that we need joy through our work, believe that we add value. So this is certainly very true. We have another comment from Julie. She says, I definitely know this is where I'm at now. I'm definitely looking for other opportunities. However, I was just asked to co-chair the Hispanic Diversity Committee Chapter for New York. So I'm torn because this is something I am passionate about. Plus, I love what I do. What would you say to Julie in regards to having to either choose to making a career change, or maybe remain and also engage and support this other organization?
I'll chime in there because I've been there, and as it's a very simple exercise. You get a legal tablet or whatever electronic device you choose. You draw a line right down the middle, and you do pros and cons. And you really I mean, the bottom line here, Adriana, is you've got to be true to yourself. I mean, I always go back to, that's my North Star. So I'm doing a pros and a cons. Pros if I stay, pros if I go, cons if I stay, cons if I go. And really, Hayden, you said it. It's feel it in your stomach. The body is wise. And really, go through that exercise of saying, okay, what if this and what if that? And then follow your best instinct. Really, follow your heart and follow your best instinct. But having said that, don't be all ooshy gooshy about it. I know that's a very eloquent
technical term.
Yeah. Be true to yourself, and ultimately do the analysis, do the hard soul searching, and you will come up with the right answer, no doubt.
And if I may, keep that long-term view. you shouldn't just, I guess, assess your career spur of the moment. You should always be thinking about your career and opportunities and where you're heading, and what that checklist should be something that you consistently maintain with regards to where you are in your career, what's making you happy, what's not. And so when opportunities arise, it shouldn't be a full panic mode. It should be like, all right, well, it could be something along the lines I had planned, something unplanned. Let me, to Marielle's point, let me do that checklist. Let me make sure how this fits into my view. Does it change it? Does it influence it? But you should constantly be, I think, reflecting on your career and doing a career assessment, a goal assessment, a happiness assessment, a satisfaction assessment, because you never know when an opportunity is gonna arise, and it'll help when it does.
Yeah, and I think, just to chime in again, you have one go around this life, right? So, but what I would say, when you have those scenarios, a lot of people will look at it and think of, what if it does not, right? And that'll keep them away. But I try to think about it as, what if it does? Like, when it does, this is gonna happen, as opposed to like a positive way, as opposed to, the what if. I think getting that out of the way and not being afraid to take the chance, and if it feels right in your gut, do it. It also doesn't mean that it's the end. If you do that one job, that you're going to be in there forever. If you don't like it, you can go and try to take another turn. So again, but just trust your body, trust your gut, and assume positive intent. Like, really think positively about it.
Certainly. And this leads me to my next question. Ellie, if you could tell us, what was the most difficult thing for you transitioning into a new role?
Yep, I'll admit that, at the beginning of, especially the transition, when I came from, transportation to financial services in TIAA, it was all terrifying and exciting at the same time. Transitioning from 9 years in a small internal audit department where I already knew everyone, was very comfortable, where it was, starting in a new role where I had to learn a whole new business and definitely navigate, kind of the corporate structure. So I really believe that building meaningful relationships makes your job very, very easy. And at TIAA, we have 9 business resource groups. And when I joined TIAA, I immediately leveraged the business resource groups to really build those relationships. So I joined the Latino, Hispanic Associates and Allies at TIAA. I also joined the Female Associates and Allies. And I really got actively engaged, met a lot of my future business partners, got a lot of informal mentoring through that network. And it really, really helped me understand the business, understand the corporate structure. I'll ask those questions outside of my immediate line of business when I needed. And it has definitely been, it was very successful for me. So leveraging business resource group, leveraging industry associations or external partnerships like Alpha and others, it's really kind of what helps transition into that new role.
Certainly. And to add to that, we have Shonda, and she says that it's so important to use the pros and cons exercise to consider opportunities and to consider your gut. So I think that overlaps with what Marielle was saying about learning how to listen to yourself and knowing yourself. That is so important.
One other thing, sorry, Adriana, one thing that I'd like to add, and I would be remiss if I didn't, as a woman, and statistically this is out there, a male will jump into a job whether he feels he is qualified or not. It's irrelevant. If all of a sudden a job comes up and they feel they want to do it, a man's going to go ahead and jump into it. A woman, on the other hand, statistically speaking, if we do not feel that we are not just 100, but 110% or 20% qualified, we won't go for it. So all of my sisters out there, hermanas, please, please, please do yourself a favor. If you remotely think you're interested in a position, go for it. It may or it may not work out. It doesn't matter. But do not hold yourself back because you think you're not good enough. You are. You are qualified, and you know what? It's either going to work out or it's not, and either way, it'll be fine.
I agree, Marielle. I think it goes back with the, if we don't think we know it all, or we can, kind of hit every bullet on that point, and even gets more complicated, right, with cultural backgrounds or others when we really go for that next step. So I totally agree.
It's so interesting that you're both mentioning that. I was reading that last month, I believe, and I was in shock to learn that men could be qualified about 40% of the job, and they apply and they feel they own it, and they say, I'm ready for this job. Whereas women, we tend to be more comfortable where we are, and we hold back from thinking that we could actually be qualified to do the job. So I definitely applaud your comments. It's so true. I encourage all the women out there, if there's a job that you're interested in, look into, like Ellie was saying, your qualifications, but also apply. Don't allow for your non-experience to hold you back, or the fear of making that change hold you back. Thank you so much for that insight. Now, with this that was mentioned, what advice or tips do you have for succeeding in finding a new role?
I'll jump in if you want. Well, going back to the last point about even applying for roles, I would say, and I think it applies here as well, is that a lot of different roles, careers might on the outside seem like they're completely, oil and water, completely different. Yet when you look at what's being done, there's similarities between the skill sets, the experience, the way you get the work done. It might be different, but don't underestimate your experience. Don't underestimate the skill sets you've learned and their applicability in different industries. It may be different, but those skill sets are what you build over your career and what you leverage differently depending on your career. So just don't underestimate that. I'd say if you're in a particular organization, look for opportunities. Keep your eyes and ears open. Organizations are constantly going through change. Change provides some chaos, but chaos is opportunity. Keep your eyes open there. Be a change leader. Take a look where there's an opportunity. Many times there's an organization may have projects or special things going on. If you think you have some skill sets that can contribute to that, even if it's run outside of another group, don't be shy to engage someone in there. Say, hey, I have an interest in learning more, and I notice you're doing this. I have similar experience. Is there an opportunity for me to connect there, to partner there, to maybe even help out? So look for opportunities like that. If you're interested in a particular role and you don't know much about, research the role. Look for someone you may know, or someone in your family, some friend may know someone in the industry, and meet with them. Talk to them about the role. Better understand what it is that role entails. What's the career progression there? What is it like to even work in that environment? Share with you, them, your values, your skill sets, and try to get from them. Is there a connection there? Is there an opportunity for someone like me to pivot there? What are the gaps I would need to grow, and where can I leverage the skill sets? That's going to help you better assess whether or not you feel that role or that opportunity is right for you. It might even help you prep for a potential future interview because you've thought about and a little bit more about some aspects of that role and how you can leverage your experience and skill sets into even a completely different role or career. So just a couple thoughts there. And lastly, I just said, don't be afraid to move laterally or even take a step back. I see too often people looking vertically in an organization for change, wanting to consistently move up. As you move up, you're going to need a broader array of skill sets, and you're only going to get that really by shifting left and right into different pockets. So don't just look vertically, consider, broad, lateral, or even a step back. If it gets you to that 5-year, 10-year goal, take that step back if it's going to give you the learning and growth opportunity you're looking for to achieve that future goal.
Well said, Alex. Oh, I'm sorry, Hayden, go ahead.
I was just also going to say on that, just what I referenced previously, like a lot of people, and I'm in the risk management set, and like I'm an ex-auditor, recovering auditor, if you will. And so,
Stop it.
I had to do that for Ellie. I'm just happy Ellie didn't say that the hardest part of transitioning in her role is working with me. But
I thought about it, but just because of your boss, I'm not going to say it.
But I think from that, again, because I would look at roles and go, no, I don't have. So I'm the exact opposite of what you guys were saying before. I look at it and say, I may have had 8 of the 10 bullets, and those other 2 bullets, I'm like, I just don't have it. I shouldn't go for the role. And I think of having the confidence in the ability, and again, accentuating that when it does happen as opposed to what if, take that out of it and just trust yourself that you can do it. And if you don't, things will work out. I mean, things generally do end up working out for the greater. So, don't have apprehensions just because you're only checking, a percentage. And especially if you're checking 120% of it, absolutely. Like, take that job and the next job. So.
Absolutely, Hayden. And what I was going to just add, which is something that someone told me a while back ago, be mindful of your brand. People are watching you. And I think, Alex, you mentioned volunteer, raise your hand. But whenever you do, and again, it goes back to knowing who you are. As early as you can, identify what your brand is. Identify how you are putting yourself out there. And then be very, very mindful and protective of that brand, because that is who you are. That is your calling card, right? So as you are navigating your way, either vertically, laterally, or what have you, people are watching you. As leaders, we're always looking for talent. And when I'm collaborating with other individuals, I'm always looking out for, hey, that individual presented really well, or that individual is really good at project management, or that individual, that. We're always looking for talent, and people are always watching. So identify your brand and nurture your brand, take care of your brand, because that is who you are.
Thank you, Mariel. And to add to that, we have Yesenia, and she comments that mindset is huge, to believe you can and you will. And this certainly just adds to everything that you've all been sharing and just sharing with us overall. So thank you for that. To wrap up our discussion, we have one last question here that I have for you all. If you could please let us know, what piece of advice would you give to those navigating that change right now?
Yeah, I'll start it off because Ellie was giving me the look. Hayden started off, so I'll start it off. As mentioned, again, build relationships. Like, I think what Mario was saying, like, your brand is very important, right? Having confidence in your abilities. Build relationships probably with the team first, right? That you're going to go in, like whether or not that's just a new project or a new team that you may oversee or just be a part of. Stay positive and really strive to be curious, give yourself grace, right? I think a lot of people, they'll get into a new role and they get in and they're like 2 or 3 months in and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. I'm still in these meetings and I'm like, they're speaking this and I'm hearing this and I'm just not putting 2 and 2 together. But give yourself grace. Like, you're not going to know. It's okay to be wrong. And it's also okay not to know everything when you first join. That's where it becomes problematic really, is if you stick to any like preconceived notions and you don't listen, right? And you don't try to bring that in and just think about what you may have known before because you're comfortable with that. But really, making yourself uncomfortable so that you can learn and you can grow. I heard somebody very recently say a statement in a conference that I was in that said, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them proportionately, which I think is a great statement, right? So make sure that you're listening, bringing in different points of view and leveraging your great team. That's the more you do that and the more you'll be successful. And then finally, what I would say, and I've said it a million times on this assume positive intent, right? Don't become judgmental. Don't go in and break down and say, because you don't understand it, that, it must be wrong or maybe this or that. Like, remain curious on that and build those relationships, because I do use the analogy, and people, if they're on my team and they're listening, they're rolling their eyes, but I do make the analogy of, there are two ways to make lemonade, right? You can get a nice, neat, like lemon squeezing machine and make lemonade, right? So buy it on eBay or Amazon or wherever you want. Or you can run over a lemon with your car, right? Both of those produce lemonade. However, one is really abrasive, chaotic, messy, and honestly, probably nobody will want to drink it. So, when you think about it that way, stay positive, see your abilities and have confidence in them, and build those relationships. And what Marielle said, pay attention to your brand. It's very important.
Absolutely, Hayden. And I think that you spoke to this a little bit. I think that change gets a bad rap. People say, "Oh, change," and all you automatically almost go to a negative perception of change. I would submit to all of you to put change on its head and look at change as an opportunity to look at something fresh, as an opportunity to turn a new page, as an opportunity instead of a challenge. So change, if all of a sudden, and I think someone posted it out there, your mindset is really important. If you have a mindset towards change that is negative or that it's intimidating, well, it will be negative and it will be intimidating. But if you shift your mindset and you look at change as a fresh start, as an opportunity to learn new things, as an opportunity, Hayden, to hone your skill set, show off your brand, all of a sudden it becomes this new, refreshed thing that isn't ugly or intimidating or chaotic. So mindset, whoever out there said that, thank you. Absolutely couldn't agree more. But definitely look at change through that positive prism and embrace it, because let me tell you, in case you haven't realized it, change is not going away. There will always be perpetual change. So we might as well embrace it.
I couldn't agree more, Marielle. It's so true. It's such a mindset. Ellie, go ahead.
I was just going to say I agree with Hayden and Marielle, and just to what Marielle was saying. We all tend to have, and it's just with everything in the world, this like recency effect, right? Like we're at the end of the year, things are changing, and we kind of look back like how tough the last 2-3 weeks, and suddenly kind of extrapolate that to like a full year. There are times when that, may be true, but really, really thinking through of really collectively, right? What happened through that year? How'd that change impact you? But like Marielle said, there's change in our lives all day. I have a daughter that turned 14 like last week, and every day is a change. So change is here, and it's just being adaptive and just making sure that you're building trust and that you're being authentic with those around you when change has an impact.
This was an amazing discussion. Thank you so much. You're all amazing. Before we go on to the Q&A, I want to encourage your listeners to go ahead and insert their questions in the chat. That way I can go ahead and read them. And while they're doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and share the takeaways that I got from you all. So number 1, know who you are. Number 2, listen to your body. Number 3, don't hold back because you lack experience. Number 4, learn processes. Get acquainted with procedures. Number 5, leverage teams. Number 6, take assessments. Assess your day-to-day. Assess if you're happy. Assess how you're doing. Number 7, chaos is an opportunity. Number 8, research the role. If you're interested in something, get better acquainted with what is required to qualify for this job. Number 9, build relationships. It's so important to continue building your network and attend sessions like this where you connect with other leaders around the country where you could learn from. And number 10, give yourself grace, because we all need it. And so we're not perfect. And we're all going through this at the same time, just at different life stages. And so that's why it's so neat, because we can all relate to everything that you all shared. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and read a couple of comments that we have here. Linda, she gives a big shout out to Alex and Hayden. You are wonderful examples of leadership here at TIAA. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oscar, he says, be flexible with your career, take risk, and you will discover opportunities.
Yes. Absolutely.
We have another comment, hashtag TIAA proud. You all have done a great job, and your partnership was so great to see. Have a very good advice, and it personally made an impact. I second that comment.
I do want to say on that previous comment, so the take risks and you'll make yourself proud, and also adapting to change. Alex and I were talking about what to wear for this panel, and I wanted to go with a tie. He wanted to go with a coat. So, and we just immediately adapted, right? So we took a risk, and I think it worked out. I think it looks great.
I think you look beautiful.
You talked about what you're going to wear, but Mario and I didn't.
I was actually talking to Ellie. You thought I was talking to both of you.
Okay, we have a question here from the audience. They would like to know, what can you do when you keep trying to make a move and get turned down again and again? How do you respond to this?
Never give up. Never give up. And first of all, don't give up. All right. I mean, think of folks like in the music industry. Think of folks in entertainment. I mean, they will be declined thousands of times before they ever get that break. You know, so first of all, never give up. But more importantly, or equally as important, I should say, is do an assessment. You know, take a step back. And again, you always have to keep assessing. So take a look at your approach. What is it that you're doing? You know, are you doing the same thing? And if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same reaction. So you may need to pivot a little bit on your approach. You may need to pivot a little bit on your messaging. You may need to pivot a little bit on how you're showing up. So, and it's a difficult exercise because you need to assess yourself. So I would do that first. Take a look at, okay, how have I been approaching this, and what is it that clearly isn't yielding the right response. And then I would also look outside and have someone assess me. Say, look, I'm coming at it this way. This is what I'm doing. And you know, and go to someone that you trust and that you feel has been successful, and have them give you a little bit of coaching. So one, don't give up. Self-assess and ask for an external assessment is what I mean, just for starters.
Yeah, I'd also say, look at, I mentioned earlier, right? Don't look just vertically, look horizontally. Look at the role you're applying for. Is it aligned with where you want to be a few years out? What are the skill sets, the strengths that you have that contribute to the role, and what are the ones you don't? Is there an opportunity maybe? I mean, being self-reflective is very hard. Easier said than done. Being true to yourself and honest with yourself is hard, very hard. So I think you also need to, as you're reflecting on yourself, looking at the role, do I have enough qualifications? What can I do differently? Do I need to take a step back? If this is where I want to be, and I don't have certain requirements, and I'm meeting or I'm engaging, I'm learning about the role, and these seem like key core strengths or competencies I don't have, ask what can I do to get that, so that maybe I don't get that role today, but I can be in that role in 2 years if I get this experience somewhere else. So don't be able to be resilient. Don't be disappointed, you know, and just keep trying, but reflect broadly, internally, which is extremely hard, horizontally, on ways you can maybe get to that same direction, should that be really where you want to go.
Being honest with ourselves, right? Really being honest and transparent with ourselves, and just answering those difficult questions that sometimes we don't want to answer. So thank you for that. We have our next question, and it reads, knowing what you know now, what would you say to your younger self just starting out in your career?
I'd first of all say I should have probably worn the tie. I think Alex was smart. I mean, honestly, I'd say when I was younger, because again, I came up through the public accounting side, which is a lot of like kind of work hard, play hard. I mean, it's hard work, right? But you have a great team around you, and and there were times where I would get down on myself because I didn't know enough, because I felt. So that's why I've been stressing that, like earlier, giving yourself grace. I should have given myself grace. Like I was, a year out of college. It didn't make sense to feel like I should know everything. I shouldn't have, But also what Alex was saying in those scenarios of being able, I wish I would have been mature enough also to self-reflect and say, well, this is what I need to do, and this is how I need to do it to get to where I want to be, and to what Mariel was saying earlier, as far as, um, you know, I was having a tough time at that time for the first, like I wasn't enjoying it as much because I was working a ton, and I was like, man, I'm being really hard on myself. And I remember my wife, my girlfriend then, my eventual wife, said, and we have a very, very straightforward relationship. And I was just in a down place, and she's like, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm not going to feel bad for you. And I was like, what? And she goes, no, I'm not going to feel bad for you unless you're willing to make a change. And it doesn't seem like you think that you are good enough to make a change, but you are. And so again, having my younger self know that, and I probably would have taken things a little bit differently, but I got better at it later. And I think again, the point is time's never out on that, right? So just continue to morph and take these things in and self-reflect, because self-reflection is hard. It is very hard, but it is very rewarding if you do it right.
I think you nailed it with the rewarding. Go ahead.
No, I'm learning something just listening to my colleagues here, and this whole notion of grace is one that is sitting very well with me. I was extremely hard on myself when I was younger, and I mean brutally hard. And I grew up in a family where if you didn't get straight A's, you had failed. So those things carry with you, and it was really, really hard when I went into the corporate world, because like Hayden, I wanted to know everything. And the worst part of it was that I pretended that I knew everything, and that's a huge mistake. Huge mistake. Never pretend to do or be anything. You will fail miserably. So that's what I would say. I would be kinder to myself, gentler with myself, give grace to myself. And I would certainly never attempt to pretend to be anything that I'm not.
Yeah, Mario, something you say there too about the way you grew up in family. I mean, we all grow up in the environment we do as a professional. I would say, my house, I grew up the way I grew up in my neighborhood, in my household. And I will say, as I progressed in my career, not a regret, but a little regret is feeling a little out of place sometimes. As you move into some of these professional environments, people spoke maybe a little differently than I did. They dressed a little differently, acted a little differently. And I'll tell you, at times it was intimidating. It kept me back, a little quieter. I felt a little bit out of place or uncomfortable being myself. But going back to being true to yourself, I think you have to be true to yourself. If an organization or the people around you don't value that, then you're not at the place you need to be. When you're yourself, you are happier, you're more productive, you can contribute better, and people around you really respect and engage you in that form. You're just you're gonna blossom more. You're gonna progress and grow. So if I have one regret, is the times that I sometimes, especially as I moved up in my career, I felt a little bit out of place, a little bit like being me was a little off. Now I am me, like love it or leave it. I think anyone who may feel conflicted at first, and in my career, I will say I did have an individual kind of provide a criticism in my review, and not 3 months later did that person come back to me asking, without getting into details, asking me for help on the same things they criticized me for. They saw it as an asset. They saw the way I engage people. They said, actually, I'll tell you, in a review they wrote, Alex is in that marketing advertising company. My first review, they wrote, Alex is so focused on being liked, I think it will impede his career progression, something to that regard. He viewed the way I relate to people and have relationship with people and try to be patient with them as a self-gratification or something. And he's was a bit of a bulldog. And 3 months later, he's like, can you get this? Like, no one responds to me. Like, they seem to always get you what you need. And before you know it, 6 months later, I'm the right-hand person. I'm his right hand. And he grew to appreciate it and embrace me for me. And that not everything is done one way. So I grew, he grew. But those are some of the instances where I felt uncomfortable being me, but be true to yourself, and it will reap rewards.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alex. I think we have time for one more question. Our next question is, how do you get your leader to advocate for you more? In addition, how do you not let lack of advocate hurt your brand or repair your brand? Who would like to take this question?
Hayden and Ellie both went off mute at the same time.
We were still thinking. I guess I'm still kind of struggling with just having your leader advocate for you, right? I think it's broader when you think about your brand, right? It is broader and multiple times there's actually a lot of others, right, advocating for you. So I think the focusing on your brand and understanding what's tarnishing your brand, if that's your perception, but then looking for avenues. And that's why I mentioned, right, like industry associations and business resource groups and special projects and others, because you don't know who's advocating for you. You're really kind of building those relationships and building your personal brand. And then that comes with it. Like when I say the story about my first job, I didn't even know right back then that was advocacy, but my accounting professor sending a resume for my first job to the federal government, that's how I got my first job. I didn't even know that was advocacy, but I guess he thought the skills, being bilingual and what they were looking for agreed to that. So you just never know. That's why the personal brand and where you go, you're always in an interview. So I think that's where you just have to continue to bring others around, not just your leader, but that's just my perception.
Thank you, Ellie. And Mariel, if you at this time would like to tell us a little bit more about TIAA and just help us to wrap it up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Adriana. And it's been a privilege and a pleasure to be with all of you today. So you see these backgrounds that we all have, #retire inequality. Please look it up. But what it is it's TIAA's movement to raise awareness of the 30% gap in women's retirement security. And we want to ignite a conversation that inspires, educates, and challenges us to work together to close that gap. You may know this, but 2022 marks the 50th anniversary of Title IX. This is the landmark legislation that prohibits sex discrimination in any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Aligning with our vision to deliver lifetime income for all with investments to build a better world, TIAA is taking action to be the change, and so can you. So let's take a look at this really cool video. Thanks all very much.
We do more. We step up, stand out, break rules, and spark revolutions. We save lives, we give life, and we get right back to work. We deliver, we over-deliver, and we make it look easy. We ball, boss up, shatter records and ceilings and expectations, and at the end of all that,
we still end up with less.
It looks like the video might be over. So at this time, TIAA, thank you so much, leaders,
Thank
for
you.
sharing about your culture, about your
Thank you.
experience. We really appreciate it. Until next
you.
time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Everyone. Bye.
Have a great week.
Bye.